This week we have a special episode of Garethite Tonight. In June, me, my dad and the team were invited down to the world famous Pinewood Film Studios on the outskirts of London to meet with the filmmakers and actors creating a brand new feature film called The Awakening. Come join us as we take a trip down south to find out just what The Awakening is all about.
Thank you so much for having us down at Pinewood. You both star in the film, you wrote the film. What can you tell us about The Awakening that isn't going to give away too much?
Well, for that very question, thank you very much. We're going to hand that over to Matt, because I am the writer, I'm very keen about it, and I will just definitely probably divulge a little bit too much information about that one.
How does it end, by the way?
Exactly, that's what would probably happen there, Gavin.
I'll be quick. It's about a normal guy who discovers that his parents have a history involved in unraveling, why the world is run and who the world is really run by. And then he goes on his own journey to discover that without giving too much away. And he has to sort of fight his way through life and, people around him and explaining why, his parents had this conspiracy.
Right.
And there's kind of ups and downs and different things. I mean, I'm trying not to give too much away.
Yeah, I know.
The whole plot away.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
It's something you wrote a fair while ago,
Yeah.
and you've had to go basically fund it yourself, which is a huge risk on your part. It's a big outlay. I mean, this place is incredible, so I imagine it's not cheap.
I've got a few connections, not many, Jake.
Which help,
yeah, absolutely.
But, what made you do it then? Why is it so important to you?
Oh man, it is everything to me to help humanity discover what I have found out. That I wrote this during COVID, and it was a time for me where I don't think I'd ever felt so lonely in my life. It was a very hard time because I was making discoveries about the COVID situation, which we're finding out certain truths. And I tried very hard to stop my family and my friends from, taking the vaccine. Well, yeah, let's call it, no, it's not a vaccine, let's just call it what it is, it's the shot. And I felt helpless at the time because they wouldn't listen to me. And for the first time, my very closest friends of a group got together and basically made me feel ostracized because I didn't want to play along with them. And I also feel like I was doing a disservice to my parents for not trying to get this message through. So in a way, I feel like this is a way that I can finally be heard, because during COVID, I was listening to you guys. I was inspired by that. I was following other people. I was doing my deep dives into the science and the medical industry and finding out there was people that didn't really feel like it is as safe as that they were trying to portray on the news. So I felt like I had a responsibility, like I feel that you guys have a responsibility, and that's what you're doing. And I feel that in this film, it's not going to be like hitting it home. This is an exciting film as well. It's not just about that. It's an entertaining movie. But I wanted to gradually show a character's awakening, which reflects my own awakening through different discoveries. And so that ultimately, by the end of this film, people will maybe take a little time and contemplate that things might not just be exactly how we're told. And that they might think a little bit more before the next avian flu comes along, and the next round of vaccines comes along. So if I can get it out and make a difference to just one person, I feel that me going all in and spending every penny I have on this, it's worth it. To help.
And that's what's really exciting, especially from my point of view, to bring those two different audiences together. We've got a lot of conspiracy theorists online and a lot of people that, believe and don't believe in certain things, and then colliding that with the film audience, hopefully, you can create obviously cult audiences and different audiences that will grow. It's like bringing two communities together that wouldn't be brought together in any other way.
Are you on the same wavelength as each other, or are you you've got involved with the film and maybe you're going through that kind of awakening thing yourself, or are you really...
It's interesting. I've known Justin a while, so we've sat down and had some great conversations. And obviously there's some things that I can understand and say, okay, yeah, if I delve further into that, I would probably start doing my own research. And I'm trying to not go down the rabbit hole in some respect, just because obviously, I'm in the film, I'm help structuring the film as well and bringing everyone together. So, you know, I've tried to keep a level-headed in that sense, or neutral ground, not level-headed, neutral is the right word. But he's definitely...
I have chipped away. Yeah. That was so much more for what you... I have chipped away, and the answer is yes, Gareth. And yes, David, he is waking up.
But the really interesting thing for me is, and I kind of want to ask, I suppose, you know, Justin and David, is how did it happen for you? What was the moment where... Because it's, you know, for me, it's not going to be, I'm not going to wake up tomorrow and go, oh, okay, now I'm awake. It's going to be a slow, gradual progression. But I'm interested to know, you know, how it happened for you. When did it happen? Where? All the sort of details, and obviously with Justin as well.
Well, I mean, we'd be here till nightfall. But in the shortest version, in 1990, I went to see a psychic under after a series of situations which led me there, synchronistically as they call it. And she told me I was going to go out on a world stage and reveal great secrets. That one man cannot change the world, but one man can communicate the message that can change the world. In other words, we all can do that. From the moment I left her front room, my life completely changed.
So it was quite instant.
Suddenly, what this psychic said to me, she said she was connecting with another reality, and she was being told to tell me this, that, and the other, was that, quote, they were going to lead me to knowledge, and they would at other times put knowledge directly into my mind. And from the moment I left her house, my life became that synchronistic series of ever-repeating circumstances where I would be led to books, documents, people, personal experiences that would, I've described it as like someone giving you puzzle pieces in a jigsaw, almost in the right order that you know where they go. And of course, the more pieces you put into a jigsaw, the quicker you can put them in, because you can see how the picture's unfolding now and where they go. And the other part of the story is also been true. In fact, it's been massively true since about 1992, is that I just know things. And instead of you synchronistically are led to information, and from the information you make conclusions of what's going on, from about 1992, it's been the other way around. I've known what's going on, and then the tangible names, dates, places, information follows to confirm the initial, if you like, intuition. And so that's been my life now for 35 years. I'm in the 35th year now. And that's where it's all come from.
I have to say it's quite ironic to hear you saying how it was a discovery for you, because ultimately I had a bit of a spiritual awakening too, and I felt like completely that I was led down a path that was guided. I discovered the meditation through being by a lady telling me that she felt these energies which I was feeling, which I didn't understand. And she said, you need to meditate. So she told me how to meditate. Then I started meditating. And then along a path about opening chakras up and opening up my third eye and my pineal gland and stop having fluoride and stop having these. It was just an ever expanding source of knowledge that I was getting to basically get to a point where awakening was written completely under my meditated state. As I was writing, I would meditate, and I would then suddenly, this flow of information which came out became awakening. And as I was awakening, the story plot seemed to almost write itself. I didn't even have to do anything. It was what I was researching. It was telling me. It was guiding me. And I feel like that's,
Do you think it accessed like a part of your brain that maybe wasn't active or awake? How do you describe it? Because obviously, it seems like a part of your brain just turned on, and then all this other information came.
I think that's the thing. I mean, there's so many things that I went through kind of mirror that, because before I went to the psychic, throughout 1989, when I was in a room alone, it felt like I wasn't alone. Right?
That was the very first thing.
Yeah.
That was the very I used to
Yeah.
say to Sally, I used to go, did you feel that as well? Is there something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was working for the BBC. This is in the spring of 1990. And by that time, this presence had become so tangible, so strong. I actually set out into an empty hotel room. If there's something there, would you please contact me, because you'll drive me up the bloody wall.
This is deja vu.
And that's what led me about a week later to the psychic, which, you know, the story I told earlier. But I think what it is I came across this thing called brain plasticity, where people thought that for a long time, until relatively recently, that once the brain formed, that's it. But it's not like that.
No, of course not.
The information that you process changes the brain. Yeah. So if you're in a belief system that doesn't change, then your brain doesn't change. It just keeps processing the same information, and that's the rigid belief system. But as you start to awaken and you start to tap into other energies you weren't tapping into before, what is energy? Information, knowledge, awareness. Your brain starts to change, because it's starting now to process a different frequency of information. And that's how the awakening starts, and then it just goes on.
Well, that's linked to the habit and the creative side of your brain, right? Because your habit, like you said, if you just have a 9-to-5 job and do the same job every day, you're not going to know or do anything different. If you tap into the creative part of your brain, which is supposed to be only 1%, it's the same as what they say when you go in and learn an exam, you'll forget it the week later. You've got to keep, opening your brain and learning this new information.
People talk about closed minds and open minds. Well, you could talk about a closed brain and an open brain, because if you look at human society and you look at the traits of the left side of the brain, they mirror each other. They're the same. Most people are in the left side of the brain. The left side of the brain is it's intellect, it's analytical, it's sees everything as apart from everything else. The right side of the brain, that's the creative part, overwhelmingly, and it sees how things connect. So if you are a researcher and you're trying to uncover how the world works, and you'll know from your experience writing the film, everything connects in the end, then without the right side of the brain, you're not going to see the panorama. You're just going to see the dots. You're not going to see the tapestry. And so it's awakening the right side of the brain that is essential to really grasping how it all works and how it all fits together.
So when I was doing my meditation, I was doing like 3 hours a day of this stuff. I was getting, I was doing astroplaning, and I was really becoming quite obsessed with it to a certain degree. I did the Kundalini exercises where I could try and pull down the fluid from my pineal gland and bring it back up to, ultraly electrify my brain, which I succeeded. But as I was doing this process, one of them was obviously bionic beats and sounds, and another one was that I had to sit, get both of my sides of my brain to work, and I focused very hard on doing that, and that enabled that release for me. And then ever since then, I was searching for the truth, and I did deep dives into nearly everything.
Well, this is the point. You've got the right side of the brain, which to put it in the simplest terms is kind of out there. You've got the left side of the brain, which is down here. It's interacting with our reality. And if you can bring them both together, then you are in this world, but you're not of this world. You basically are bringing the two worlds together, the world that you are in and you can perceive, and those other levels of you that are beyond the senses' ability to process and to see. Because one of the things that is so important for people to grasp is the tiny band of frequency that we access. The sight frequency that we can see, everything we see in this room now, is so tiny, it's laughable. I don't think that's an accident, personally. So when you are in your five sense mode, your left brain mode, you tend to believe that everything you see in the space you're looking at is all there is to see.
Yeah.
But what you're actually seeing is a tiny band of frequency called visible light. It's so tiny, it's ridiculous. And everything outside of that, in all infinity, you can't perceive. And so it's like living in a little prison cell, thinking you're living in infinity. You're not. You're only in a tiny fraction of what there is to see. And if you can be held like that, and you perceive that everything is what you can see, then you're in a prison cell, but you don't know you're in a prison cell.
What's really interesting about this is you're coming from it from a science perspective, essentially. And most people, when they look at like conspiracy theorists, they just think, oh, they're all crazy, they're nut jobs. Yeah. And what's really interesting is, you know, you're actually thinking from a science perspective. And, you know, I massively believe in science. I think science is the only thing really we can't defute. If it's scientifically proven, it's usually correct. So I'm quite interested
until it's debunked.
Until it's
a few
debunked.
years later.
Until it's debunked, Tell us a fake vaccine.
Exactly. It is funny though how everything's connected, because as a family, my brothers over behind the camera, we're all into steam trains, right? Which is completely disconnected from the conspiratorial world and what's going on and stuff like that. But it was actually steam trains that drew you to that sidekick, because I disappeared as a kid, wandered off looking at steam train books, and that's when you saw the Betty Shine book.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
It was interesting.
He was only about that high, but he's still into steam trains.
I still have now, yeah.
Like the old style ones?
Love them.
Yeah, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have a room where he goes through the walls and all that sort of stuff?
One day, mate.
Yeah, one day.
Bucket list.
See, we're into steam trains and goalkeeping, aren't we?
Goalkeeping.
He was the England goalkeeping beach soccer goalkeeper. Jamie had trials at Man United and Aston Villa, and he was at Portsmouth for four years as a youth player, and I played professional football. So we're all goalkeepers.
Yeah.
And your daughter's a goalkeeper. Right?
Yeah, well, they say that you have to be. In fact, there was a study that came out. There was a study that came out that showed that goalkeepers have their brain functions differently to outfield players. That they see things unfolding in a different way. Which, you know,
why is that?
Maybe that's part of it. I'm not entirely sure, but they did a study of about 1,000 goalkeepers. It was a big study in terms of from real like grassroots level all the way up to Premier League goalies.
I think the one thing about that is your goalkeepers have this perspective, right? Whereas a player is very jumping around, and they're in there.
Yeah, you're seeing how the pieces fit, aren't you?
Exactly. Well, the players, you see them when they do the shows afterwards, and they do the circle around them. That's what they're seeing, their vision. Whereas goalkeepers are
maybe that's part of it. But you said something earlier interested me, where you were saying, you know, in terms of the rabbit hole, you're kind of holding off the rabbit hole for now, you know, while you're doing this in terms of the film. It's a question I've never asked you actually, and so I'll ask you as well. You know, when you started having this awakening, was there any part of you that almost tried to not go down the rabbit hole, to reject it in a way, in the sense that I've got my life here, if I go there, that's changing forever?
No,
definitely not.
Not at all.
100%.
No, when
it encouraged me to go even further.
Right.
Oh yeah, me too. When Betty Shine, the psychic, told me I was going to go out on the world stage of Real Great Secrets and all this other stuff that went with it, you know, it's like part of you goes, I'll present the sport, mate. You know what I mean? On the BBC. What are you talking about? But there's another part of you. You'll know this as well. There's another part of you that says, "You've got to go with this. You've got to go with this."
Yeah.
And
I never wavered on going with it. I knew I had to go down that road.
Yeah.
I wonder how many people do waver though. I wonder if
Well, I think a lot of people do, mate.
People do, yeah. They see it and they go, do you know what? I've got a mortgage.
Well, it sounds like their experience was so strong that it you know, it kind of
didn't have much choice.
It just went inside them straight away, and it was
Complete bliss.
Yeah.
Complete peace, complete connection with Source, and just knowing that this is what I have to do.
Yeah, I tell you what I don't understand, and you know, I've been doing this for 3.5 decades, and I've seen people come, and I've seen them be flavour of the month for a year maybe, and I've seen them go. I've seen other people come, and I've seen them go in this arena.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, how can you go?
Yeah, how can you?
Once you have any inkling of how the world works and what the end goal is, how can you walk away from it? What is it?
There's nothing else, is there?
It's like, you know, it's getting too tough, or you know, it's too hot in the kitchen. Well,
You've got to protect your children, you've got to protect the future of your children, and your children and your grandchildren come in.
I don't understand why they walk away, but I've seen so many people do it, and there's only a few that have gone the distance.
As you said, the ridicule and the basic, the way that they get you is to ridicule you, and some people just can't take that, and then they go to the other levels and things. So
do you think maybe some people as well perceive that we've lost or we're going to lose? You know, if you watch a football match, you see a football team that's maybe 2-0 down, and there might be 5 or 6 players whose heads are just down and they're not putting any effort in, and you've got others that are still busting their gut and going, come on, giving it all that. Yeah. Whether that's you guys, basically, and then there's others that have gone, do you know what? 2-0 down, mate, it's done.
I think what I feel that needs to happen within the whole conspiracy truth movement is the fact that we need to be directed. It's all great we're waking everyone up, but I think now it needs to come up to it with an idea of how you unite everybody together with a plan and a structure to know actually it's, because I often used to get told, oh right, great, so wake everyone up, yeah, what are you going to do? Well, the government's not there, you've got nothing, it's pure anarchy, and that's not anything what we want. We don't want anything like that, but to give some guidance of like their actual end goal, well then make everyone know, okay, cool, if we do that, then people won't drop out. People will know that we have a goal, because these guys have been planning this for centuries. Oh, yeah. So if we have the same kind of structure that there is a path that we can all work unitedly together, then I think then we can make real change.
Yeah, I think the organisational side of it has often been a problem within the alternative realm, for want of a better word, because these people that elevate themselves above us, and at least people think they do. They're not very nice, but they're hella well organised. Yeah. In that sense, they cover bases, and I think a lot of the alternative is kind of because it comes from a heart place. It's slightly all over the shop.
People also don't know what the outcome is. We were talking about money earlier, and a friend of mine the other day, he said, Matt, I get everyone all the time saying, I've got a film idea, and a friend of mine came to me and said, imagine making a film where everything was free. So money didn't exist. And he said on one side, it would be unbelievably brilliant and everyone would live a happy life. But on the other side, would there be anarchy? Would it be, craziness? Would there be more violence and all that kind of stuff? And it's kind of linked back to, how the world is run essentially through money, and what stage is like crossing over to, can we do this? Are we going to take the risk in doing this because we don't know what the answer is going to be?
Well, it's interesting with your film, because you are making a film about information that some very financially powerful people, or people with the ability to finance it, either don't want out there or don't want to be associated with because of the consequences for them of other people on their lives. And so control of money is... it's massive, because it's control of choice, it's control of freedom. You control choice, you control freedom. The more choices you have, the more freedom you have. And in the world that's being constructed, who controls the money controls choice, controls freedom, right? Yeah. So this is how it works. And they also control, therefore, your access to money to make films like this. Yeah. So you've ended up funding it yourself.
Yeah, I have.
Because you had to?
Because I had to, and everything's lined up for me. It's all lined up since I made the decision, since the film was made, since that I needed to raise the money came, and then everything has lined up coincidentally, or
synchronistically.
Yeah, it's not been even Matt now says I've never been on a film that's got so much love and energy. Well, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, but it is interesting. I mean, I've been doing this 11 years now, and I said to him, you're going to have all these problems. This is going to happen. And do you know what?
What did I say?
It's so weird, and I will say this honestly and for the first time. I'm extremely shocked about how much. I don't want to. He doesn't think it's luck, but I'll say luck. I don't. How much luck and how much everything's just gone right for him in this project. So it's like, and if I've come to him and said, "Oh, this is going to be helpful," no, it's going to be fine. Do it. And it has been. And it's so weird, because that usually, I'm dealing with problem after problem on films. And for this, it's just it's gone everything the way we wanted to. And because of the freedom of having the money, you know, excuse the pun, but we've been able to creatively build the project to the best of its ability, which matches obviously the tagline there. You can see the film they don't want you to see, right? So, you know, like I mentioned earlier about the communities and the audience, bringing the conspiracy theorist audiences together with this, it's working really well so far.
With looking at, you know, marketing and advertising, the mainstream media and the other normal platforms aren't going to look at it, and I'm relying on the truth movement to spread it. You know, we are relying that we all, let's show them, let's get them in, let's get this community showing who really has the power, who can really make the difference, who can really spread it.
Yeah.
And we all come together, and the figures will show.
But
you know,
art
how
has
many
a great
people
way
it
of doing
reaches.
that though. Because if you, I don't like the term normie, but it's something that people use a lot. So if you take, you know, those people and you want to show them what's going on in the world, are they going to sit down and watch, you know, 90 minutes, 2 hours of a film, or are they going to watch 2 hours of a PowerPoint presentation? They're not going to watch the PowerPoint. It's boring. I can't be able to switch off after 10 minutes. So if you can get the message to them with exciting explosions and things.
Art is a beautiful medium for you know, excuse the pun, but for changing the world. You know, even you look at some of the artistic moments throughout the time. You know, even when Bob Marley jumped on stage with those two politicians, brought them together the first time. There's just so many moments like that where art has brought together people like that. You know what I want to ask in a weird way? You know, you often refer to they and the higher power. Have they ever contacted you in some way, whether it's through directly or indirectly?
They are aware of the film.
Yeah?
Yeah, they are aware. Have they ever contacted you?
No, but they've contacted me via ridicule, demonization and abuse, right?
Yeah.
So that's the interaction with me. And, you know, if they know anything about me at all, and I think they do for a long time now, any effort to try to stop me just makes me run at them even faster, you know.
Yeah.
And I do think, you know, you're talking there about how smoothly it's all gone. Most people don't realize, although this is what, I mean, mainstream science has confirmed this a long time ago, that every time we feel emotion, every time we think, we are generating a frequency. It's what we call vibes. Or got bad vibes off him. That's because you're picking something coming off them that their face may not betray, like Tony Blair, but actually behind it is a very different intent. And that's the word really, intent. The intent is an incredibly powerful energy that can move mountains. It can make anything happen if your intent is there. And so when you're trying to present something that is true, that is an energy, that is a frequency. When you're trying to present something that's not true and is manipulative, that's a different kind of energy. And the more you become sensitive to energy, which we become desensitized from, because the five senses are the focus of everyone's attention, or most people's attention. When you become sensitive to energy, you pick it up.
Yeah.
You can pick it up, you're trying to manipulate me, this is manipulative. Or, you know, I really sync with this. I feel this is right, this is true. And, you know, if the energy is right in a project, the outcome will happen. Yeah. Because we are creating our own reality all the time. You know, a simple example, if you believe you're little me and have no power, you will live a little me, no power life. Not because you don't have power, but because you believe you don't. And what you believe, you perceive. What you perceive, you experience. And when you are coming from an intent and knowing that this is going to happen, I'm going to make this happen, that manifests as it happening. Yeah. It's a completely different energy you're putting out. So it's a completely different experience, outcome that you're drawing towards you. And this is the level, ultimately, that this conspiracy comes down. Because the conspiracy's control of humanity is control of human perception. Like little me. I'm little me, I've got no power. Well, you're not a problem then. Let's get as many people thinking that as possible. Yeah. But when you say, hold on, I'm not my body, I'm not human, that's an experience I'm having. Yeah. what I am is consciousness, and ultimately all consciousness, if I open myself enough to it. And therefore, I have the power to control my life. I have the power to control my outcome. I have the power to impact upon my experience. And if more and more people realize that, and this is what this conspiracy overwhelmingly, bottom line, is trying to stop us seeing and accessing, if you do that, then you don't need even an organization. You don't need anything, because the more and more people that are expressing that knowledge of their true identity, that they're expressing that intent, that awareness of they are in control, not some external force, the more people do that, the more the world must change. And the power of this network of secret societies to control our perception, thus control our behavior, thus control our lives, diminishes with every single person that says, I've just remembered who I really am.
Yeah.
And I'm not what they told me I was.
It's time to wake up.
Yeah, exactly. It's that is the awakening.
Yeah.
That is the awakening. It's awakening to our true nature rather than the self-identity that we're given from cradle to grave, which is you're just a human. You've got no power. What power do you have? You've got no power at all. You've got to look to authority. They're the ones that have the power. When you realize that's a confidence trick, it's not actually true, then the power dynamic starts to shift. And while the mainstream of the alternative media is just focusing on the puppet show of right-left politics and all that stuff, it's not seeing where the answer lies, which is in a redefinition of our self-identity.
Yeah. I think people are ready for it, though.
Yeah.
I honestly do.
I really do.
I think, the idea, COVID was kind of quite an important time because it was so obvious, wasn't it? Some people could see through some kind of conspiracy, and then all of a sudden you were in a position where people are following arrows on the floor around Asda. I mean, if you need any more evidence that the world's a bit crazy, that's it. And so I think people are ready for a film like this now. Because I think people know the truth when they hear it as well, don't they?
Yeah.
You just, like you've just said about the vibes and stuff, you just know it. And I think, like, if you go out for a pint with your mates and maybe they bring another mate along and you don't know them, you can sit and talk to them for 5 minutes, and when they go to the toilet, you go, your mate's full of crap, isn't he?
Yeah.
But you don't know that any of his stories are false because you don't know him. But you just kind of know he's full of crap.
There's a nice
tell.
kind of almost funny side to the idea of conspiracy theories. This is why in this film we've touched upon quite a few, because we don't want to just focus on something to do with the moon landings, because the moon landings and another conspiracy generate a different audience. So it's nice to have that broad range. I was going to ask, it's kind of a weird question, but is there any conspiracy theories that you have looked at and gone, actually, no, I don't believe in that one. I get that one, or I believe in this one, but then you look at one and go, no, I'm not going to follow the trend on that one. Is there any that kind of jumped out to you? I suppose it's a question for both of you.
Q, aren't you? Well into Q.
Well, yeah, the Q whole Q period relating to the Trump presidency. Because I've been doing this for so long, I've heard so many stories repeating.
Right.
But they repeat under different names and in different guises, but it's the same story. And from way, way back in the early 1990s, I started to see this recurring theme of, you don't have to do anything. It's all under control. What they're going to do is the good guys on the inside of the deep state, they're going to arrest the bad guys, and it's going to happen on this date. And of course, it doesn't happen. And by the way, and some of them, they
like the world ending in 2010 and different, like those kind of things.
Yeah, well, it's like you don't have to worry about the conspiracy because all the bad guys are going to be arrested by the good guys in the deep state. It's all being looked after. You don't worry. Trust the plan. And in different guises, I've seen that over and over. And then Q came along, right? And I'm thinking, not again, because it was the same story, just in a different guise.
So it's trying to stop guys that are like me, who are relatively new to it, going, all right, well, someone else has sorted this out.
Yeah.
I don't need to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Trust the plan was you just shush.
Yeah, trust.
It's sorted. That's what it
Trust
is.
them.
Okay,
Trust
yeah.
them. They'll be fine.
Okay.
They don't have to do anything.
Yeah, and what was interesting about that is because you when things are shown, like for instance with the end of the world cult, if the world doesn't end on the 10th of July or whatever, and you wake up on the morning of the 11th, oh no, because there's an excuse.
There's another reason.
With the
yeah.
Q one, it was great because all the good guys, the white hats or whatever they were called, have gone and arrested all these bad guys, and then suddenly you see Bill Gates. Oh, well, he's still there, mate. Oh, that's a clone. That came out then. Oh no, they're all clones.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know what to do with that then. I can't go anywhere with that one. I can't disprove he's not a clone.
Yeah, the best one was when they named a list of people who are going to be arrested on a certain date, and I'm thinking, what are you telling them for?
Exactly. That's Minority
Do you think they're going to be in when you turn up? You know, I mean, it's crazy.
Steven Spielberg's film, Minority
but
Report.
you're absolutely right. It's you don't have to do anything. It's all under control. Oh, okay. So I'll go back my life and forget about it. They want you to do that. That's not how it's going to end.
But that also takes the power off of people as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're not using that power to go and do anything because I'm just relying on the white hats rather than...
And I think this film, going back to the film, I think this film will ultimately motivate the people that are already awake that, you know what, we can make a difference. Act on what you're thinking about. Trust that there is a divine, power that's driving you in the way that it might be personally to them to act and do it. Because ultimately, what's going to happen? We're going to be in the 15-minute cities. We're going to have climate agendas. We're going to have electric cars that they can shut down. And we are going down a path where ultimately they have their plan. We don't so much, but they have their plan, and it's going down that road, and we're seeing it.
Yeah.
So if you're out there, guys, do your thing. Contact all of us, and we'll do what we can, right? To do something.
I was going to ask David, is there anything like, Justin now, this is his thing. Is there anything, because you've done, you've been on every TV show, you've written so many books, you've been around this for a long time. Is there anything that you haven't done yet that you want to, I want to, I don't know, speak in front of X amount of people or be in a room with someone that, is there anything you haven't done yet that you want to do?
It's funny because when I started out, I was turning up at venues, which I kind of booked, and I'd put the chairs out, and then I'd speak to the chairs, right? There's no one sitting in them, very few. And then I'd put the chairs back and go home, poorer than when I arrived. And at that point, I thought, my ambition is to get it into theatres, get this into a theatre. And we eventually got it into theatres. Mm-hmm. And then it was, I want to get into arenas, and we did Wembley Arena twice. I'd like to see it in stadiums. You imagine the energy of awake people in a vast stadium and what that energy could do.
Well, let's do it.
I mean, that's what I...
Let's do it.
Yeah, we can do that.
That's what I would like to do. And also, this synchronicity goes on and goes on and goes on. And so my kind of understanding of not just the conspiracy, but the way the conspiracy can be dismantled just keeps going like that. So the books I'm writing now, like one is coming out on September the 1st called The Reveal, is way, way, way out there. It still relates to here, but it's way out there, because that's where ultimately this conspiracy is coming from. And so there's so much more still to know. This is one of the things that's really driven me over the years. And a lot of people forget this. And this is when you've got a religion that says this is how it is, or you've got another belief system, like a scientific belief system, scientific orthodoxy that doesn't want to, its orthodoxy challenged, this is how it is. What's forgotten is what Socrates is supposed to have said in ancient Greece, which is wisdom is knowing how little we know.
Yeah.
To know is to know you know nothing. That is the nature of true knowledge, as Socrates put it in his own words. In other words, whatever we know, the one thing you know, there's more to know. Yeah. There's more to know. There's always more to know. And that means that you never find yourself going round and round in an eddy I've got it now. This is what's going on. You know there's always more to know. So the question is, okay, I think I know this. I've got evidence that leads me to believe this. So what don't I know? And so what don't I know continually drives you further and further on.
It's like the creation, though, isn't it? Once you get to a point and you achieve something, then ultimately you create something else.
Yeah.
And
it can be frustrating though, I'll tell you what, because you think you've kind of got stuff figured out, and then Dad will do like an audio book and he'll send the files over and just say, can you listen to it for mistakes? And I'll sort of put the earphones in and go out for a long walk, and you'll be in the middle of nowhere and he'll say something and you're like, oh, for goodness sake. I thought I had it figured out, and now you're going somewhere different.
That's definitely something that I believe in, because I think we all think that the humans are smarter than we are, and I just don't think we are. I think we're still quite a basic race. And, this is why I said to you just before we started this, I don't really believe or take what anyone says to me now, because there's so many different people of opinions. Stories and films, how did they first start? They started with, thousands of years ago, people around the campfire telling stories, and that story became manipulated and added and removed, and that's how we get to modern day society. It's hard just to believe anything now.
Yeah, but what I would say is consciousness is potentially all powerful. Programmed perception can be the village idiot. And if your attention can be confined only to the human vehicle, the program, this is like a software program. I've been calling it since the 1990s, a biological computer. I'm even seeing scientists referring to it as biological computer now. And it's like a software program. It's like a perception program. And it's like, if you put a headset on in a virtual reality game, in seconds, you see them on the internet, in seconds, your perception can be taken over. Now you think there's a monster coming at you, and you're screaming, and you're falling over, and you're jumping in the air. A few seconds ago, you were in a room, maybe even on your own. You put this thing on, and what does it do? It's talking to your bodily senses, your 5 senses, your visual senses, your audio senses, your touch senses, with the more sophisticated ones, and it completely takes over your sense of reality. But what you can do is take the headset off and go, pew, it was just a game. Yeah. But what if this was the equivalent of a headset that was feeding you a sense of reality, which you can override with consciousness, but if that overriding consciousness doesn't impose itself, then this is running your life. And you're basically like a non-player character in a virtual reality, in the sense that the game is running you. Once you break out of that into consciousness beyond it, which is the true you, that's called awakening. And once you go through that process, suddenly the world looks very different. Because this software program, this biological computer program, is not dictating your sense of perception anymore. Now you're accessing a much wider perceptual library, if you like, and you start to see things in a different way. And people have said to me so many times, it's so obvious, mate. Why couldn't I see it before? Because you were there before. Yeah. You were here before. Now you're tapping into something greater than this biological computer, and therefore you're seeing what you couldn't see before.
There's a great
and that's
video.
What awakening is.
There's a great video. I don't know if you saw the reel. There's it was a woman put on a headset, and they just ask her to walk, and she walks on the edge of a building, and then they take the video out, and what they've done is they've cut a hole in the hole in the actual real life. And she's walking on the edge of this like New York skyscraper, and he says, yeah, keep going, walk. And she does it the first time, and her perception is like, okay, I didn't fall, I fell in the virtual reality, but I didn't. And the second time they open the latch, and it just changes her whole,
my God.
She's screaming, she's like, it just changes her whole perspective, because she just falls down onto a mat, obviously. It's crazy, because then, like you said, it's playing with the...
It's amazing when you observe the world, how easy it is to trick perception. Exactly. And that's what the conspiracy is about, tricking perception, the whole foundation of it.
Just finally, going back to the awakening, is there a release date yet? Because obviously everyone's working hella hard filming at the minute, and because of the fact that you want to get this message out to people, is there almost like an urgency Or are you like, no, it's got to be right?
It's interesting because, you know, I've had a couple of interests already from some major distributors, and they want to read the script. And me and Justin have said, we're going to hold off on sending you the script at the moment because, you know, we want to have the freedom of making the film, and certainly we don't want people coming in and saying, "Hey, we'll change this," or "You can't say that," or "You can say that." For now, you know, we're filming at the moment. We're going to go into post-production. We're going to finish it. We're going to look at what we've got as a product and as a film and what the message is saying, and then figure out who's the best person to release this. You know, the perfect ideal for a film is to release it in theaters where people can go buy a ticket and watch it. That's the perfect thing, not being controlled, you know, through a distributor on a specific platform in a specific territory on a limited release.
Right. So that's the business mind. I was wanting to also have time so that we can go and do more of these podcasts, get more people excited, maybe get, you know, in different countries and get more people.
Well, build our community. Build our community. Yeah.
And so the community itself will want to help spread it, because I think, you know, once it's released, it's going to go, you know, bang. And so the more people we have on our side that want to help, then it'll be.
I think your goal is for the most amount of people to see it.
Most eyes.
Most amount of people.
Yeah, exactly. That's what has to be the goal when you're trying to put things in front of people to say the world's not like you thought it was. And I think it's important that you finish the film on your terms, and then say this is what we have. Do with it what you will. Yeah. But you're not going to come in early and say, "Oh yeah, well we'll run it," but not with that, not with that.
No.
That's the great thing. Normally, you know, when I'm making films, we have a distribution deadline. We have, like, you know, and it's based on someone else saying you got to finish it at this point. This is great. We can take our time with it. And the key thing is building, you know, the community. You know, meeting guys like you and sitting down and talking about it and raising awareness as well. That's.
Did you see Sound of Freedom? Did you see the movie Sound of Freedom? Yeah. And that touched the hearts of people because it was about the freedom of children. Yeah. This is about the freedom of humanity. So I feel like that's how I want to, you know, do it how they did, market it the way that they did, which is a lot of, you know, a lot of podcasts, a lot of explaining, and a lot of sharing the information and stuff.
Yeah.
So
I can't wait to see it, mate.
Yeah.
And the world's moving in that direction, and through 2024 into 2025, more people are going to awaken because the world is going to put reality in their face. So it's going to be very difficult to deny it the longer it goes on.
Yeah, so do you think there's going to be a few shocks coming up in the next year and a half then?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And is that in the monetary system, the financial system?
In all things. In all things.
In another avian flu, do you think we're going to be locked down again?
Well, I think that's absolutely the idea. But I mean, you know, this is the point. We have the power.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at the number of people in full knowledge that are manipulating 8 billion, it's laughable. It's ridiculous. There's no way that mathematically that few can control 8 billion. Ridiculous. But they control their perception, so they control their behavior. So they get them to do what they want them to do. The thing is to take your perception back, and to this is what this film will be very beneficial, and all the stuff that we do is to show people not only that the world is not as they thought it was, but why it's not and how it's done. Because when you say a few people control the world, they go, that's ridiculous, that's not possible. But if you see the structure in which it happens, it's absolutely possible because of the way it's all laid out. And so it's we're heading into a period where they are going to want to have people in such a sense of chaos, like this has happened. Oh my God! Oh now that's happened. Oh no! Oh. Because when you're in that state, you're not taking a breath, taking a step back, and seeing it. You're in a reactive state. You're not in a panorama perceptive state, a perception state, saying, "Oh, I see how that fits to that fit." It's like survive another day. Oh, what's happened now? Yeah. Have you seen the news? That's how they want us, and so there are going to be a lot of shocks. But the key is seeing why they're happening and staying calm and not getting pulled into the drama of it, challenging as that may be, so that we can stay in that, take a breath, take a step back. Oh, I can see what's happening here, and when you it's like you know when you have a dream, and you believe in the dream, you are emotionally affected, you're mentally affected. You might wake up with a start saying, "Oh my God, I've had a nightmare," because you've been in the dream. But you have other dreams, lucid dreams, some people call them, where you're in a dream, but you know it's a dream. And you're observing the dream. And that dream now, because you're observing it and not caught in it, believing in it, it doesn't have the same emotional mental effect on you.
You're not worried about it.
And you wake up, oh, I've just had a dream. But you've observed the dream, you've not been in the dream. And this is the key to one of the great foundations of this conspiracy. It's to pull you in the dream so you cease to be an observer of the dream. Yeah. And the more shocks they can give us, the more they pull you in the dream. Yeah, yeah. And that's the challenge that people are going to have, whether they're going to allow themselves to be manipulated by that technique.
The film's coming out at an important time. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much for having us here, mate.
Thank you.
Great to meet you, mate.
It's been great.
Cheers, man.
Guys. Cheers. No, happy days.